Hello and welcome to the motovlog about the Ducati XDiavel. Yes, as you can see, it is a bit more rural than usual. We are on the way back from the Balkan Rally and we stayed overnight near Zagreb, and now we are continuing the stage, heading back home. I thought I would take this rural setting as an opportunity to talk about the handling of the Diavel in town or in a village. And just to say up front, we have 168 horsepower and, do not let me lie, 1,100, roughly 60 cubic centimeters. Exactly, so really a lot of power. And regarding the seating position, the Diavel is more, yes, it leans towards a cruiser. Your legs are positioned quite far forward, but I will go into that in more detail in a moment. And what immediately stands out here is that we have a wheelbase of 1,620 millimeters. When I first looked at the bike of Gornir standing in our yard, I thought, my goodness, I believe I have never seen such a long motorcycle. And especially with the wide rear tire, I initially had, yes, some fear or concern that the bike would not really handle the curves of Croatia and along the tour very easily. But now that we are getting into more winding roads, I think it quickly becomes clear that the Diavel is actually very agile. And yes, I was very positively surprised by its handling. In general, it is super light, really super easy to get through a curve. It is so stable. And even in terms of weight, I was very, very positively surprised here. I think it was the first time on a motorcycle of this size that I never needed any help to push it back or reposition it. And even when turning around on the road, I never had any problems. The Ducati is such a blessing when it comes to maneuvering, turning around and handling in general. Now the road is getting a bit curvier and it is still slightly wet. I need to keep that in mind, but I think I will be able to show you quite well. Anyone who has looked at the Diavel before knows that the seating position is very, very surprising. I cannot put it any other way. I looked at the Ducati in the yard and thought my legs are supposed to go there. I was a bit skeptical at first and thought, wow, the bike looks so sporty on its own. Does that even fit together? And let me tell you, it is such a joy. Especially now, after the Balkan Rally, we were on the road for several hundred, I think 1,500 kilometers, which falls more into the category of a longer tour. And this seating position in combination with the padding of the seat was an absolute gift. So let's overtake for a moment. Yes, it was an absolute gift. The seat adapts very well. I am just speaking frankly here. It is comfortable. You have a lot of padding, and even after hours of riding, it never becomes uncomfortable or pinches anywhere or makes you feel like you are sitting on a board. It is actually, yes, just how I would have wanted it for a longer tour. And also the forward-facing position and this wider handlebar, you sit a bit, yes, I always say, like a bodybuilder with wide arms and leaning forward. That is also very comfortable. At first I thought, I don't know, maybe my back will start complaining after a few hours. But no, it is really, yes, comfortable and I think even pleasant, so that I don't have to sit upright the whole time, chest out like that. This feels a bit more natural for me. Let's see, no one's coming? You can also see that overtaking is absolutely no problem with the Ducati. The push is there immediately and you don't have to worry about not being fast enough, not being elegant enough, or yes, playful enough to get past the cars. In Croatia, lane filtering is a bit less frowned upon than it is in the wider areas where we are. And even here I can say, if you are someone interested in this bike and like to weave through traffic, I think you will have no problems. The handlebar is a bit wider and the bike generally quite bulky at first glance, but it is so playful, light and agile, and I never had a moment where I felt like I couldn't get through or that the bike was not made for it. When it comes to highway riding, we did cover several kilometers on the highway on the way back from the rally, and I have to say I can already feel it at 100. It is, of course, not a touring motorcycle with a huge windscreen that offers strong protection. The most tiring, or noticeably so, is above 130 kilometers per hour. Up to that point, it is moderate, even if you know, okay, I will be on the highway for the next 2 hours, or even 3 hours, then riding around 130 kilometers per hour is not a problem. After that, the pressure on the chest becomes quite high, and I had to say after half an hour, wow, no, please let's reduce the speed a bit. Otherwise, over time, it gets too much because you are pushing a bit against the neck and head, and then I think you arrive home a bit tense everywhere. That is also not comfortable, but to be fair, the motorcycle is simply not meant for that, and it can still go fast, and that is fun, especially on stretches like the ones we are about to ride, curves like these which stretch out a bit longer through the landscape. That is where the Ducati feels most at home, or where I feel most at ease on the Ducati. It handles tighter curves brilliantly, no question, but here you enter the most pleasant flow, you are in your element. Personally, this is where I could best relax in harmony with the motorcycle. What did I forget? The quick shifter, which is included as standard here, and it works perfectly. Downshifting is absolutely no problem. I can demonstrate that in a moment. I am now in 5th gear, boom 4th, no jerking, no twitching, boom 3rd, nothing at all. Bravo, Ducati, it just works wonderfully. And one thing I personally found really funny, because I'm just not used to it, is that normally I know there's a special button for the cruise control. You press it, maybe move a paddle up and down, or buttons that go up and down, clearly marked, okay, that is the cruise control. On the first day here, I searched around a bit. I now always use the clutch out of habit. That is just how I do it. I learned it that way, and my hand goes there automatically. But if you are someone who loves using the quick shifter, as you have seen, it works perfectly for me. I am just a creature of habit, and I like it that way. The clutch is also excellent here. I don't have to twist anything at the start, and it is not too heavy. It is just as it was placed in our yard. Everything fits perfectly. Exactly, but about the cruise control, I had to admit a little mistake to myself, because at first I didn't understand that this button or this area is solely for the cruise control. Normally I know it is marked with the speed indicator, with a symbol, with a pointer, but here it is just an entire panel that you can use. You simply go to the center and then you see it is green, which means it is on. And then you can simply boom, turn it on, and the hands-off system is activated. And very easily you can adjust it here, down, down, up, up, and it regulates automatically. It works wonderfully. I also had a good comparison with my partner, who is riding in front of me on his KTM, which also has cruise control, and it became noticeable. I don't want to make anyone look bad or draw a comparison, but it was noticeable that his cruise control at some point would randomly, without him wanting it, give more or less throttle, and it was not entirely consistent. Here it stays at the speed you want, unless the headwind is too strong. Then you might be 1 or 2 kilometers per hour slower, but it works perfectly. So let's switch it off again. I apologize in advance if I am speaking very quickly and maybe a little slower now, but for me, motovlogs are still the biggest challenge, because while talking and riding, you have to concentrate on 2 things at once. Sometimes I am not as fluent in speaking or as articulate as I might be in front of the camera, but now we will ride another stretch so you can really see live in action what I am talking about. So I will use the quick shifter. Again, I will just ride ahead for a bit. I am thinking if I forgot something I also liked. Yes, ha. I am glad I didn't forget. One thing that is a bit annoying is the ventilation. When you turn off the motorcycle, whether it was a day tour or a city ride, in good or bad weather, heat or cold, this machine vents incredibly loudly and for a long time. On the Balkan Rally here, there was an insider joke. When I stood somewhere for a lunch break or so, people would say, Amelie is blow drying her hair again, because it really sounds like a hairdryer, and it goes on like that for minutes. And that is a bit annoying. And generally, I have already talked about heat. When you have been riding for a longer time, it gets really warm. And even after shorter city rides that we did in between, you notice that the Ducati radiates a lot of heat. For me personally, I have to admit, with hands on the handlebars during cornering, this is actually positive because I am someone who gets cold easily. So for the ladies who also get a bit chilled on motorcycles, I always think this is great. But of course, among motorcyclists in general, a bike that radiates heat so quickly is sometimes looked at a bit negatively. But as I said, it doesn't bother me. It's not like you feel your jeans are burning. It's just noticeable, like a sort of heater between your legs. So let's open it up a bit. Another thing I just remembered while riding that works really well is the engine braking. When you let off the throttle, it decelerates pleasantly and not too jerkily, and the throttle response in general is very controllable, very smooth. Even with 168 horsepower, you might expect a beast, and it can be one if it wants to be. I also had people during the rally ask why I even brought a superbike to the rally. They thought it must be a monster. And don't get me wrong, the XDiavel has incredible power and is fun. It is sporty, but it does everything so elegantly and accessibly that from the 5th minute after first getting to know it, the expectation that, oh God, this is going to be an unmanageable beast was immediately taken away. And that I love. I have to say, I just fell in love. So I am stopping here. And I would say I have talked a lot, told you a lot. You can see the small side stand. It's interesting, but it works perfectly. There were no tricky parking maneuvers. I'll show it to you again in full. Unfortunately, it's a bit dirty. Sorry, it has been through a lot. Yes, that was it for the XDiavel. If you have questions, leave them in the comments and feel free to tell me if this is a motorcycle you would like to ride and what your first impression is and how you liked the video. I hope you could take away a lot. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching and bye-bye.